Wanjiku area. And then, where are we? That's all, yes. Yeah, so we have other directors who couldn't make it today, who are out of town. We have Nisha Van Hook, who's out of the country. Dr. Cheng Ahaya, also not, is out of town. Yeah, so these are the directors here. So thank you very much for coming in. Oh, Cairo, yeah, so Cairo is supposed to come. He's out of town, but he's flying in. So we're trying to delay this as much as possible. But no, yeah, so he sent his apologies for being late, but he'll be coming here and to give us a small presentation. And yes, and his presentation is about tax and how sports sponsorships, we can leverage that and reduce the tax. So in business, we all like to pay tax, don't we? But a bit less than what, yeah. So, I mean, we're a progressive country. I think this tax law was brought in 2017, but it's not been fully exploited. And because it's business people here looking at what rugby can do, well, specifically rugby. So in sports sponsorships, there's a section of the law. Oh, sorry. And the most important, now, again, we're coming back to Paula Lanko. Paula Lanko is a former director of Kenya Rugby Union, and she's on the executive committee of Africa Rugby Africa. It's changed from Rugby Afrique. It's now Rugby Africa. Yeah. And there's an Anglophone president. Yeah. And she also sits at World Rugby Council and with our president. So sorry for that. But yeah, we work together on the board, and she's also helping us and pushing our agenda. It's important that we have our directors and former directors, Kenyans, pushing the agenda for Kenya and Kenya Rugby. And also our vice chairman is now on Africa Rugby Committee competitions. Yeah. So we're also pushing our people to sit in positions, decision-making positions. I don't want to ramble on and on. You have to follow a program. I can start and continue talking. I'll be here till tomorrow. So, yeah, I just wanted to thank you for all coming in. And Kenya Rugby is on a new trajectory. We want to build these relationships. The world is changing. Other countries, we are competing against the world. And other countries have a lot of resources coming in to support their programs. And we don't want to be left behind. And that's why we are all here in this room talking about what we can do together in partnership. We're not talking about even sponsorship, it's partnership. We're going to give you some value, you're going to give us value, we're going to grow this thing together, we're going to change lives. That's what it's all about. Okay? And bottom line as well, how do you increase your sales, your visibility, tax reductions, but changing lives? It's just a good story. There's no, it's just up and up and up. That's all it is about. So, Mike Craig, I think that's my opening remarks, very long. I'm a bit of a politician. So, so Mike, thank you very much.
Yeah. Sasha is a typical politician. If you don't take this from him, he'll be there all night. Yes, this next part of the evening is to give you an idea of what it is in terms of vision for Kenyan rugby, okay? And particularly what is being called the sponsorship deck. Now, to introduce this and to introduce the next speaker, I'm going to call on Harriet. Harriet, come forward. And I want you have a speaker for this presentation. Yes. I'd like you to introduce that speaker.
Okay. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Oh, gosh. I'm not a good public speaker, so I'll just get on with it. The next speaker is going to be someone we call Ngarwa. We've worked a lot in collecting, while approaching corporates to sponsor KRU. Most of them wanted to know the data, yeah, or the statistics around the value that they're going to get. So the chairman put us with Ngarwa to put together for the sponsorship. So he's best placed to do the presentation. Ms. Ngarwa, please come forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Harriet. I think Mike handed over the mic to you because he was going to have a challenge pronouncing my name. As Harriet has said, my name is Ngarwa. And a few things I want to say before we start. At the beginning of this year, there was a book launch, 100 Years of Rugby in Kenya, at the Nairobi Club. And Zach Olo, in his... Zach Olo, who's the author of that book, said that in the era of professional sports, the most important person in the ecosystem is the fan, is the consumer. And he went on to say it's not the chairman. He went on to say it's not the players, it's the fan, because the fan is the one who pays for the tickets, he's the one who pays for your merchandise, he's the one who pays for your food and drink. So everything has to be centered around the fan. It has to be consumer-centered. So as Harriet has said, a lot of the challenges we're having are around data. And I want to give you a reflection of why data is important in sports today and when it comes to sponsorship. 10 years ago, Real Madrid took out a partnership with Microsoft, in which Microsoft developed their customer relationship management system, essentially their data. And what that exercise allowed them to see is that they have 500 million fans, and of the 500 million fans, 7% of them live outside of. Yeah. Okay, can you guys hear me? I think I'll have to use it. Yeah. So, 97% of the fans live outside of Spain. Only 3% of Real Madrid fans live in Spain, meaning that most of their money is coming from outside the country than inside the country. What that exercise also helped them understand is that most of their jersey sales are consumed in Indonesia. Not in Spain, in Indonesia. So that allowed Real Madrid to curate their experience according to the fan from the global village. So they stopped using Spanish companies, they started using global companies. I'm sure you started seeing Fly and all those sponsors sponsoring Real Madrid. Fast forward 10 years later, Barcelona were looking for sponsors and they have been in financial problems. And they were going to do a deal with a music streaming service, Spotify. And Spotify asked them, how many fans do you have? Barcelona said, we have 350 million fans. Okay, where's your database? Their database only had 3.5 million fans. So instead of getting $600 million, Barcelona got $300 million. And that is what sponsors are looking for. Sponsors, there's a saying, and I know it sounds very crude and as ugly as it is, sponsors do not care about your sport, they care about your funds. And to market directly to your funds. So with that, Tio, I think we can start. So yeah, given the choice between two products of equal cost, 72% of sports fans would almost always or frequently choose the brand they associate with their passion for sport, right? Over the one that's not. So this is the global sponsorship market. And you can see how skewed it is in Kenya. In the world, 70% of marketing goes through sporting organizations. And then you have entertainment, 10%, causes, 9%, then arts, festivals, and associations and membership is another 4, and 3%. But that's not the case in Kenya. Why is it not the case in Kenya? It's because most sporting organizations do not focus on the fun. They are not consumer-centric. They are not focusing on the person who's giving them the money. And that's KRU's new strategy. They have to focus on the fan. They have decided that the fan is the most important person of their game, and therefore, and therefore, they have to focus on the fan. So these are the growth verticals in the modern sports ecosystem: broadcasting, merchandise, sports betting, games and events, digital, which is a very big thing, partnerships, ticketing, and real estate. So why? This is what a sponsor is looking for when they're sponsoring your product. The first thing is category exclusivity. So let me give you an example of category exclusivity. Today, KRU could walk to EABL and tell EABL, we want Tusker to sponsor Safari Sevens. And Tusker will ask them, what are we getting in return for sponsoring Safari 7? And KRU will say, we'll give you brand visibility. Brand visibility is number 3 and number 4. But let's be objective. Tusker Kenya Rugby Union. Tusker is a bigger brand than Kenya Rugby Union. So there's no brand visibility Tusker is benefiting. But KRU could offer something they call pouring rights, which is essentially you're the partner for alcoholic beverages during the Safari Sevens. And KRU will tell EABL now, we have 20,000 fans per day. 20,000, maybe 15,000 are the ones who consume alcohol. And of the 15,000, let's say they'll drink a 6-pack each. So that's 90,000 beers in one day. Safari 7 goes on for 3 days. Let's say even it's 2 days. That's 180,000 beers being consumed in 2 days. Is it working now? Okay. So that's 180,000 beers in 2 days. Multiply by 300 shillings per beer, that essentially gives you 54 million shillings. So for exclusive pouring rights for Safari 7s, breweries or KBL or Tusker are going to make about 54 million shillings. Then it becomes interesting for Tusker to partner with you for exclusive pouring rights because they're tapping into your fun. All right? They're tapping, the consumer is the person they want. Your fan, the person who's come to the stadium to watch your event is the person they want to deal with. So the other things are, number 2 is on-site signage. On-site signage is essentially advertising happens in the stadium. Okay, I'm having a hard time with this. I think I'll go on without it. On-site signage is essentially advertising on game day. And you cannot advertise to an empty stadium. Your consumers have to fill the stadium. So the 2 biggest things is category exclusivity, on-site signage, then you come to the rest, right to property marks and logo, content for digital users, access to property mailing list and database, where essentially I can communicate to your client directly or to your consumer directly. So it's the same thing. So the sponsorship triad, you have the sports team, you have the sponsor. To make this very simple, the sponsor or the partner is using KRU as a billboard. They're using you as a marketing tool to get to your fund, which goes back to the first thing we say. And that's where KRU is going. Their consumer, the fund is at the center of everything to make sure. Happens with the Springboks. To make sure that there are more funds coming into the stadium. Because like we said in the beginning, consumer is everything. So these are the different funds for consumer behavior. You have the armchair fund, This is a guy who really doesn't give a damn. He'll sit down in the, he doesn't want to go to the stadium. He'll sit down in the house and watch whatever sport it is. In this particular case, rugby. There's trend positive. And these ones were very many when Richard Omwela was chairman. Trend positive. They just wanted to come because rugby was an in thing. Right? They account for 9%. Then there's the game expert. That's the person who knows all the rules. 13%. Like Mike. And then there's the busy person. And the busy person is 18%. He's very busy in his life. So he might not come to watch the game, but he's going to tune in after the game is done to watch the replays. They are still consumers. Their adverts still running when that game is playing. So that's the 18%. You have the cynic who doesn't really believe in anything, but he'll still buy your stuff. He'll still come to the game. That's another 11%. There's a disengaged. He really doesn't have any emotion to the game. But look, it's a plan. So let me come and see what's happening. That's 6%. And then you have the biggest segment, who's the connection fund. So this person is connected to something. It's either connected to the community, it's connected to the country, but most of the time they're connected to the brand. So that's the connection fund. That's the person who's going to spend more clearly per this chart, and that's the person you want to tap into, that connection fund. So that's where brands use sporting organizations to market their product, because they want somebody, goes back to the first thing that we said, 72% of people are likely to associate with the brand that sponsors their favorite sports team. So these are the metrics. I won't get into detail. But I won't focus on this. Spectators versus athletes. Now, there's a notion that athletes are the ones who come to watch your game. Clearly not. They're only 11%. Spectators are the ones who want to come. Right? So we need, I keep on saying, you're competing with so many things in today's dynamic. Because somebody wants to go for an afternoon nyama plan, somebody wants to go to watch a movie, somebody wants to go. You are all eating from the same pool. So you have to make your product best to attract the fun. So, so I want to focus on this. This is an NFL team called the Kansas City Chiefs. And it's a direction that KRU have already done, or already heading that way. Kenya Rugby Union already have their app. Now, Kansas City Chiefs developed their app, an application. And off their app, they were able to mine data that helped them understand who their quintessential fan is. Is somebody who spends $15 on grocery. They even have the radio station that the person listens to a lot. They have, owns 2 cars, with at least one being a Ford. And what that does is it allows the Kansas City Chiefs to go to Ford and say, look, my fan has 2 cars, but one of them is a Ford. Come on, give us money to attract our fan. They can go to, eat fast food 7 times a month. They go to McDonald's and say, look, my fan spends 7 times in a month consuming your product. And therefore, McDonald's are ready to give them money. They know, watches 19 hours of TV per week. So you know where to advertise your products. There's a radio that listens to 13 hours of radio a week. KRU have already started that journey in that they have developed the Kenya Rugby Union app. And that app will be able to give them data insights and consumer insights to understand what their fan likes. And once they get that information, it allows them to know what sponsors to approach. But also in that, as we speak about that, I go back to the initial point of Real Madrid. Microsoft as a sponsor catered just to the data and the customer relationship management. And that's a journey that you can partner with KRU to build over the next 6 to 10 years, or even longer, because Sasha, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you guys are looking for long-term partnerships, not 3-year deals. You can't do anything with 3-year deals, really. So you're looking for long-term partnerships. And these data insights are what helps you understand what your fan wants, but also it helps you understand, let's say, for example, a rugby fan is also a football fan. So you're able to go and tell, hypothetically, ABSA, because they are in the Premier League, oh, my fan is also a football fan. So you can give me some money. So this is measuring the return on investment, brand impressions, new leads generated, obviously on-site purchases, click-through rates, email open rates, you get all this, net promoter scores and consumer interactions, and that way Kenya Rugby Union is able to understand what's the return on investment they're getting from the partner that they're dealing, or rather the partner is able to understand what's the return on investment they're getting from their partnership with Kenya Rugby Union. So there's broadcasting and new media. This is the deal I was telling you about, $306 million. They could have gotten $600 million if they had the database for the funds by the new. When you're talking about broadcast rights, you have 3 broadcast rights. You have free-to-air, you have pay TV, and you have now digital, which people really don't focus on. So you can see the NFL has partnered with Amazon TV for $10 billion. Apple TV with Major League Baseball, it's in Apple TV with MLS. So these are some of the places that you can be able to piggyback off in terms of broadcasting and new media. Now, the most common live sports viewing platform, and you have boomers, you have Generation X, and you have millennials and Gen Z. And I'll give you a story. Richard Joba and I were talking 2 or 3 weeks ago about the World Under 20. And he was like, no, I haven't seen this thing in any print media. Richard, please. I guess you're here, boomers. Yeah, he's still waiting. A study was done at Cape Town Sevens, and 4 years ago, off the shambolic data that South Africa Rugby had, Sasha and I were on a call where we've been told this story. They thought that their average fan was a 55-year-old man. White, yeah, 55-year-old white man. When they cleaned up their data, they've been able to understand that the man is an 85-year-old person. And that is where their revenues have gone up. As we speak today, Cape Town Sevens, tickets are sold out 3 months to the event. 26 million rand. That's about $1 million at today's exchange rate. That's about 140 million Kenyan shillings. Upfront, 3 months prior to the tournament, because they have understood their fund. They've been able to sit down and they've partnered with people who are able to invest in their fund. So youth demos demonstrate brand influence. Again, 18 to 35, as Cape Town Sevens has said. Best example, another example is F1. I'm sure all of you have seen the Formula One craze that is in Nairobi nowadays, and Kenya by extension. 5 years ago, the person who owned the rights for F1 was asked about tapping into Gen Z. And he said, they don't have money, so I'm not going to focus on them. It's called Bernie Ecclestone. When Bernie Ecclestone sold his rights to Liberty Media, the first thing they did is they relaxed the social media rules. And they made it attractive for the 18 Gen Z, basically. And they released that, what they call non-game content, Drive to Survive. When they acquired those rights, F1 was valued at $4.4 billion. 6 years later, they're valued at $17.6 billion. So we have to adapt with the times. We have to understand what the consumer wants, and we have to tap into that. And since KRU is willing to do that, then the sponsors in the house should be partnering with KRU to maximize on those growth verticals. Yeah, so these are some fun engagement and data insights. These are the things that allow you to understand all these things. Global reaching numbers. Now, like I said, the world is a global village, and it's good we have the president of Rugby Africa here. For Kenya Rugby Union, it's no longer about the Kenyan market, it's about the African market, which is undervalued. The African sports market is undervalued, and the global value. Most of the times when you travel, especially on the 7th circuit, everyone's, after their home team, everyone's second most favorite team is the Kenya team. Right? The fans. Yes, Kenyan corner. Are we leveraging off that? No, we haven't been able to. So we need to fix that. I was looking at the statistics, with 3 million Kenyans living in the diaspora, $4 billion per year in remittances to Kenya. We can tap into that in terms of merchandising, right? We can partner with sponsors who understand that we are trying to position ourselves as an African brand as opposed to a Kenyan brand. I'm pretty sure when South Africa were being sponsored by Sasol, Africa didn't know what Sasol was, but now they do. So those are some of the things that the Kenya Rugby is trying to leverage on to increase their revenues. So that's the Africa sports opportunity. 50% mobile penetration in sub-Saharan Africa, 700 billion smartphones, 1.3 billion people. Over 400 companies generate $1 billion in revenue in Africa, amongst all the other things. So the opportunity is there, and we have to position ourselves as an African brand, and that's where Kenya Rugby wants to be. They're the second federation on the continent with a customer relationship management system, which is their app. So they are adapting to what's happening in the world as we speak. Again, the African sports and entertainment industry, Nigeria, $10.5 billion. Amongst all these other figures that you've seen, with sports betting, which is also a big thing. So, where Africa is and where China was 2 decades ago, those are the similarities. When all the sports money was running to China 20 years ago, those were the demographics, those were the numbers. Those are the exact numbers. And that's what Kenya Rugby Union wants to partner. That's what Kenya Rugby Union wants to tap in. And as Sasha said, we're looking for 5, 6, 10-year deals and 10-year partnerships that allow KRU to be able to optimize their revenue generation. So these are the numbers: 9 million participants, 405 million funds, 88 international markets. And I must add, I know for rugby core lovers, they don't like this, but if you see a sport getting into America, it's time to play catch-up. With football or soccer 30 years ago, when you see a sport getting into America, it's time to play catch-up. The US have just gotten the 2031 World Cup rights, the 15th World Cup. You notice that traditional rugby powerhouses, New Zealand and Australia, have lost the sevens legs in the HSBC 7th circuit. Yet America still has. Even that F1 we was talking about, it's because of America. So I know for traditional rugby lovers it's a problem, but if we want to compete money-wise, we have to start thinking about those numbers. So this is how Rwanda could rip off 200 million from the Arsenal deal. Before the partnership was signed, 71% of the millions of Arsenal fans did not consider Rwanda as a tourist destination. So those are some of the partnerships that Kenya Rugby Union is trying to get into, either with the government from a tourist perspective. Rwanda is not even a tourist destination, yet their numbers, just because of this partnership, has increased by 8%. For Kenya Rugby, which is a global brand, which is the Sevens team, which is a global brand, you can imagine the amount of numbers we can be able to generate on that. This is the one I wanted to show Richard. Njoba, not Omwela. Print. Richard, print. Look at print. And this is rugby. MasterCard, Heineken, Land Rover, DHL, Societe Generale, and Emirates. Print is a very small percentage. It's mostly on online and broadcast. Broadcast is about your numbers again, consumer-centric. So that's where Kenya Rugby is heading, and it would be good to jump on now. So this is a very honest statement, and let's not deny it. You'll always find value where people are having the most fun. So as KRU is working together with their partners, be it ABL, whoever it is, they are not there for the game. 2/3. If you look at the numbers during what they call the Super Bowl, the game itself will have 110 million viewers. During that halftime show, because of that halftime show, it shoots up to 114 million. When the halftime show is over, it goes back to 110. it's about in and around the stadium experience. It's a fun. You have to create a 360-degree experience for the fun. Rugby is just a part of the entertainment. And that way, that used to happen at Safari Sevens a lot. 1, 2, 3 people are coming. It's the plan of the. It's a plan of the year. It's a plan of the year. Before you know it, you're converted. For us, what are we concerned about? It's money. They're paying. They're watching the games. They're buying the merchandise. And at the end of the day, it's money for the sponsor or the partner, because whatever the product it is you're offering, category exclusive. You leverage off that, and KRU gets their money in whatever revenue. Yes.
Just a quick observation. This is absolutely brilliant. I've been breaking my head of why World Rugby is pumping in so much money into America, and Africa is falling off the cliff because of that. So thank you for this. But I just want to ask you, you're talking about the fan. If you've got a 3-year-old, who's his first fan?
Parents.
Or hers first fan?
Parents.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the gang does have some role to play still, doesn't it?
He does. He does. He does.
I just wanted to
Yeah, he
clarify
does.
that.
But also to
Simon Richards' generation.
let me ask you a question. Do you have many people in your generation who've fallen off the game over the years? They don't pay as much attention as they did when you guys were younger. Most of them. So why did the game retain those people? It's a lot of things. They come to watch a rugby game. It's a button they want to use. It's not good. All those conveniences are not there. So to keep that fun, who's going to pass it over to the child? We still have to be consumer centric. Yeah. So in a nutshell, that's what Kenya Rugby Union is focusing on. Consumer centric. It has to be about the fun. The fun is the one who brings all the money into the game. And now that the sponsors, partners, I say partners because sponsors come to meet your budget. Partners grow with you. The sponsor will tell you, how much is your money? How much do you need? 10 million shillings. They'll give you 10 million. A partner will take out a long-term deal with you because they want to see you grow. And as you grow, their product also grows. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the direction that Kenya Rugby Union is taking. Thank you very much for your attention. To big things for Kenya Rugby Union.
Yeah, it's still working. What an excellent presentation. I don't know why you put me down as an expert. I'm certainly not. But I'm all the more expert now from what you've produced there. It was very, very good and very interesting. Now, going on, the next section is about testimonial. And we have a video to present to you, which relates to a particular person, Bronson Madigo. Is that correct? Yeah. This is all about someone whose life has been positively influenced by Kenya Rugby Union. I think you're going to enjoy this video, so please pay attention. It's very, very, I've seen it. It's a great video. Are you ready? Just a moment and find it. Okay. Are we ready? Good. Well done. Let's go. What a very moving and excellent story. I stand here for a few minutes before you because of my involvement with the rugby patrons and our support of grassroots rugby and age grade rugby. Where did this young man come from? How did he start playing? This is what our society are looking for. We look after about 500 children from 4 areas around Nairobi and its outskirts, and mostly underdeveloped areas. And this is where the future players for Kenya are going to come from our age grade, going up to under 15s, then under 20s, and forward. And this is a typical example of what can be set as objectives before them. But, and most importantly, neither we nor Kenya Rugby Union can do this without the support of the sponsors. It is so important. And I would like now to call our chairman back up again, please, because I want to start a Q&A session. So, Sasha, can you come up here? I want to prompt all of you. Any questions that you may have, no matter how silly you may think they are, you've listened and you've watched certain presentations. You've heard the chairman speak about what it is actually that they're looking to do. It's a new activity, and I want this to be an session, very important. Not to just sit there and say, oh, nothing. If you have a question or something in the back of your mind, raise it. Okay, bring it up. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Sasha, and he will hopefully be able to answer your questions.
Thank you, Mike. We also have another video, but we want to show that as well, and it shows what rugby can do in people's lives as well. And it's quite, as I said, we always see the big picture, like Kenya Sevens playing in Hong Kong or whatever, but rugby, there's a lot more than that, what you see on the screens. Yeah? So before that, this video is about 11 minutes long. But it shows basically what rugby and Kenya Rugby has done and our people. And the 2 gentlemen are here involved, and they'd be able to even talk. For me, I just carry this vision, but we have good people on the ground working for this game and changing people's lives.
playing without shoes, but the coaches were encouraging us to keep on calm. So what take with that? What was saying asking for years or asking for heaven? Around here, they not change how Randy really gets. My dream is just playing at a professional level. Even if I get old and study on my own team so that I can convince other children to play around and encourage them. Yeah, you should do that. I'll be able to do that. You will go to the India and be winner. You did the dollar again. Challenge be 88. Going back to national, winning the national. Okay, going back to the international game and winning that national. I know you. I know you. No. You what? About the contact. So I think me. Ini sekalian ini mengandas itu yang kusuka itu konsiderasi itu saya nabo so mengandas itu now yo membahas itu itu sel keputusan bahwa yang membahas ini adalah school traditions itu kelas again. down and go there. The idea was to make money out of that. But it came a point when I only had a friend there. Then one time he told me, why can't you invite those people from the plant to come and join the other guys doing rugby? So when they came into the program, they were taking more of it. But now these Bunda boys were talking English. So they could not really talk to each other. So they looked at us, they left. So I was left with these guys from Islam, in the Dorothy. I now had to use my own money to start supporting the program and making money out of the program. I might say it is a factor in the game of rugby that sometimes you might lack being financially okay. And not the way you are playing the game, you knew one day they will play in their life. Most of them now are playing for Kenya City, Kenya Lioness, and even Kenya Shujaa and the Simba.
And I'd like to call the gentleman in front here to talk about this. Yeah, as I said, when you look at the big screen and see Kenya Sevens there, but really rugby, this is what rugby is all about. Changing lives, yeah, and here they are. So I'll not talk much, let them say a few words.
All right. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is David Weru. I work for Kenya Rugby Union as the Regional Development Officer for Nairobi Metro. I'm also the coach for under 18 boys, also working closely with the Kenya Rugby Union and NOC, and also the founder of Community Rugby, thanks to the Patron Society over here. I'm the one who started the program in Runda, and then it grew also in Gong. Just happy to be here. I've been with the children for many years, since 2007. At least I might say through the program, we have had 2 girls who have been Olympians, which is so beautiful. So thank you so much. And also we have last year's MVP in rugby sevens circuit, that's called Amon Wamalwa, playing now for Kenya Harlequins, doing so well. And also having the captain for Kenya Rugby Lioness, she's called Sheila Chajira, still from the program. And also the captain for under 18, still coming from the grassroots program, that is Wangoi. They are going to Trinidad and Tobago. So along the time I've been in the program, being the founder, I just thought maybe now this is the time to share the story of what happened in the community. This is just part of it, but I also know around Kenya we still have other stories. So sometimes it's always good to tell the stories just to see how these kids are going and making sure that their rugby dreams are kept alive. Because children have dreams, things might stop them because of maybe the issues that are happening on the ground. But because of people who can be able to come and support through a community social responsibility, called CSR, that can be so helpful. Also, from the video, you also saw there was a tournament happening at Impala Club. It was called Schools Rugby World Cup. We just thought about having something of the sort in Kenya, instead of just waiting for kids to go outside the country and play over there. So that was just the first one happening in Kenya. So the idea about the Schools Rugby World Cup is to sell the tourism in Kenya, having schools around the world coming into Kenya to come and play and enjoy the tourism in Kenya. So next year we are hoping to have the winning schools going to Masai Mara, and that can always come from the support that you can always get from our corporates. So we're looking forward for your great support. So this is just part of the story. We are still trying to make it sure that it's becoming a film. We had some filming in Oloitoktok when the boys went for the regional game, for the county games. You also went to Nyahururu. And I know there's a lot that's coming up. My good friend is called Vincent. He's the producer. I met him like, 15 years ago? We were with him at Alliance Francais. So it's always good to have friends around. So when I told him about the story, he said that he's going to pick it up. So maybe he can tell us more about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Eru. Story. Someone talked about Formula One and what has happened to Formula One. And it's true story. If you watch that series, it's not really about the racing. It's about people's lives. It's about the emotion, the politics behind it. And so when Weru called me and said, there is this team from a little school behind a slum in Ngong that is causing ripples in the rugby scene, I was curious. And I said, okay, sounds interesting, let me come see. And so I went and saw them. And I could not believe what I was seeing. These boys with nothing, really, nothing. No shoes, no kit, no pitch, no posts. There is no rugby pitch, but they were dedicated. The only thing they had was Coach Weru digging into his own pocket, buying them bread and juice, and the drive. The drive is what caught me. These boys are driven. And they explained to me that they want to be East African champions. And immediately I knew there's a story that has to be told. And so we started filming. And like Coach Weru, I dug into my pockets, used my Fuliza, got a little to start filming, because we had to start filming. The boys were already on their journey. And so we've been filming with them for about 6 months now, just telling their story. Devi's story is amazing. He's a rugby captain. He pays his own rent, pays his own school fees. The drive in these boys is amazing. And so we're telling this story. We're following these boys up till when they finish high school, up till when they start achieving their dreams. They want to be professional players. They want to be coaches. They want to be referees. They are working towards getting scholarships, towards being signed into clubs. And this is the story we want to tell. 2 weeks ago, we were filming with them in Nyahururu. Unfortunately, they lost at the regional finals. So their dream of going to the East African finals was cut short. And for a moment, we thought, is this the end of the story? And I was sitting with Weru, and Weru said, no, that's not the story of rugby. The story of rugby is, how do you get up when you're down? And so, thank you. And so we are carrying on with the story. And the boys, there's an amazing scene you'll see later. We took them to the Thompson Falls in Nyahururu. They were sat by the rocks, the waterfall behind them, Coach Weru giving them a speech about getting up from loss. And at that moment, we started drawing parallels to what's happening on the national level. And we thought, wait, this is very familiar. And what about if we started telling the national story as well? How do we rise from relegation? How do we rise from that loss? And draw parallels using this story. And yes, so this is a story we are telling. This is a story we are going to tell. And it's the story that we hope will inspire, motivate, and show people the power of rugby, how it can change lives, and how just community grassroots rugby can be used to build the game. And if any one of you has experienced filmmaking through your corporate world, you know it's an expensive venture. So we are still fundraising to make our story because it needs to be told. It has to be told. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I think we can end here, but I have to give you the vision, what we want to do. But that is basically what it's all about. Rugby is all about that. Ngarwa?
Just to highlight what these guys are doing, there's something in sports now that is called learning in context. We talked about Formula 1. 6 Nations Rugby are doing it right now. This is basically capturing the stories behind the scenes. And it's an added revenue stream for whatever the creators you're talking about. So you've heard him talking about, it's a very expensive venture to create content, to create those stories. So for the sponsors in the house, that's a story that can be sold like for KRU, that can generate.
Yeah. Good. So yeah, what did they say? Yes, we are down. Kenya's relegated this season, but we've all been on that journey, getting us to winning. Richard, your chairman for many years. We worked together, director of sevens, Humphrey, captain. We know where we can be. We know what we're capable of. Yeah, when we said we could win the Rugby World Cup sevens in 2009, very few people believe that. That's the first time Kenya beat Fiji in Dubai. That's the same season that Kenya beat New Zealand in San Diego. It wasn't a close game, and I cried tears, actually. I'm man enough to say that. Same year, we beat the Springboks. The pool game in Adelaide, I was there. We lost to them in the final. That was our first final. So we are capable, but we need resources. Right now, where we are and what the people we are competing against are much more resourced. The talent we have. So it's a harder thing now, but these young boys in Gong are saying they'll rise up. Weru is saying the same thing. Now we have products. So we have women's rugby. The Kenya Lionesses have qualified for WXV3. That will be in October. So the Kenya women will be on the world stage. We even have 2 professional players playing in Japan, if you don't know that. Quite impressive. I went to Madagascar for the first time ever and watched them play there. We are competing against South Africa, so we are second in Africa, but they are much more resourced. And we are looking at having games against the South African women in South Africa later this year, before the WXV3. That requires resourcing. So currently we don't have a partner on that. But we have age grade from 6, 8 to 9. This past weekend, we had a development conference where we strategized about development of rugby and where we need to be, starting rugby in primary schools, having it resourced and with the government behind it. And that's Ministry of Education. So we are talking to government. That's not Ministry of Sport. But we now look at infrastructure. So we are now also talking to American Towers on decommissioning base stations, converting them into rugby posts. We are collecting data. We have around 160 schools so far that we want to put in rugby posts into those schools, and also balls, and also now get our RDOs. I mean, if you look at the provinces in Kenya, so Weru is handling Nairobi, but we need more regional development officers. That's development grant. But we need corporates to come in and fund this. This is change of lives that is happening right there, okay? And of course, if you look at bottom line, there's tax benefits, and then you get the full benefits of sponsorship on partnership. We're looking at starting the Kenya schools, again, reviving it next year. It's not been there for many years. We're looking at having the Kenya schools with all the talent that we have. It's moved from Nairobi, but now we're getting back the traditional rugby centers, the Lenanas, the Nairobi schools that have that tradition but have lost it. You know, now patrons are coming in and resourcing the, inter-house games. That's where it starts. It was high-level competition within schools. The things that we used to do that have fallen back off the way. And that's what we are reviving that, okay? So getting schools and primary to play rugby. We want rugby to be the sport of choice in Kenya. If you look at the values, the core values of rugby, it's made us who we are sitting in this room, a number of rugby people here, successful. Why? A big part of that is rugby, yeah? And we want to develop, human resource and improve the society. And that's through rugby. He said he would be in crime if he was not playing rugby. We have a lot of our players who are the first members of the family to get a file in immigration. That's a very hard thing to do. You get your passport, and the first flight you have is to go to LA to play, HSBC sevens. This is not made up. This is here, And that's what we are saying. We need to support this. This can be a bigger story than it is right now. Some of even my board members have not seen these videos. So we need to tell the story. Talking about high school rugby. Yeah, the nationals are next week, yeah? So, and we need resources to go and support those teams out there. Get the Kenya schools team together. This is the first year that Kenya Rugby is doing girls rugby in sevens. Next year, we're doing 15s. All this requires resources. We're already talking to partners on that. Now, universities. This past weekend, we were talking about the Varsity League, which is huge. We have so many universities in Kenya, and they want their own league that also requires resources. There was a Varsity League before, and it went down, but we want to revive it. And of course, we're talking about everything, there's a reward after that. When we get the team that wins, we also have a Kenya combined universities that should go and play in the Varsity Shield and Varsity Cup in South Africa. We have to play better competition to get us on that level. So the women are there. Shujaa, relegated. We don't have the resources that other teams have. We need to get more partners in. There's still space. SportPesa is a good partner, and they did not leave us when we were relegated, and we have a plan of how to get back up. But that requires resources. And there's plenty of space on a shirt. It doesn't just have to be at the front. It could be at the back, on the shorts, and the story and everything else. And not just money, but also in kind that we require. Whether it is, gym, nutrition. Nutrition is big. So we even had a call yesterday with GAIN, which is the UN agency for nutrition. And when you look at our boys playing in the under-20 trophy here, and you compare them to some ones we can't compare. They're naturally there. But if you look at the Spaniards, those are huge boys. But it comes down also to the nutrition in school. If you go through all that, it's a big difference. So Kenya is punching above its weight, and that's a fact. We are laden with talent. Talent is falling off the trees, but now we need to put the resources there to get this game where it should be and where it was before, and also surpass that. Yeah, when you're talking about the Kenya 15s, the Simbas, huge opportunity now for partners to come in. It's a very expensive program. Rugby is expensive because of the numbers. When you have a team of 35 men and women who have to eat a lot and have to be paid, their salaries and all that, and play competition, you have to travel. So one ticket is hard enough. Paying for 40, those are the numbers. Now, Kenya Rugby Union is very transparent. Our accounts are up there on our site. And we are talking to partners and telling you, join us on this journey. We have committees that are in the Kenya Rugby Constitution. And we are very transparent. The directors have signed the conflict of interest agreements, and we are all on this path to say, yes, we are transparent. Come and sit with us, see how your money is spent. So the partners are now going to also have a space in the committees. So you come, for example, sponsor Kenya 15s, the Simbas, and you'll have your person sitting on that committee and knowing what is happening there. And that's a once-in-a-month meeting. The board meets once a month, but transparency is there. And the journey is to get to the Rugby World Cup 2027 for the men. The director in charge of 15s is here, Mukabane. And for the women, 2025. Yes, it's short term, but of course the long-term thing is to develop all the talent and have it consistently looked after, resourced, yeah, and it's consistency. So we are looking at these partnerships with all of you here, and we're inviting you to join us on this journey. So there's one last clip that is done by one of our RDOs, Kenya Rugby Union. We need more of them. We only have 8 people covering this country, yeah. So we need more. This was done by the RDO, Weru's compatriot at the coast. On phone, so he said, "Excuse me, Chairman, for the quality," but he's done this himself. But it's amazing. And that he did himself. Nobody asked him to do it. He's put that together. So, you know, the people that we have in Kenya Rugby Union go over and above the call of duty. And, you know, to excel in anything, you don't just have to do it the way everybody does it. You have to go over and above, and that is where you're going to make a difference and be different from everybody else. So things like we're talking about the Kenya Cup, our league, top division. We're talking about nationwide. We're talking about the championship. This very many teams. You have 12 teams in the top flight, and now 12, and then we have 52 clubs playing at regional level all over the country. So your product will be seen everywhere. You know, so your return on investment with Kenya Rugby is going to be amazing. You've seen the stories here, real stories, and a lot more are there waiting to be told. Now, at the highest we wanted to start the Super Series, but we want to start a professional league in Kenya with 6 teams. We've had Super Series before, and we're already talking to, so this is, I've been thinking about this for a while, and we've been talking to a number of rugby people and business people and saying we need to start a professional league, but fully owned by private sector, not Kenya Rugby Union. So Kenya Rugby will set up the structures, but now owned by private, these will be private companies. So investors can invest in this. And they will be in 6 different regions. So Mombasa, these are the traditional rugby playing regions and the cities. And so you have Mombasa, you have Nairobi, Nakuru, Kisumu, Kakamega, and Eldoret. And also how to get the infrastructure built. So I've already been talking to a few counties and the governors to put in 5 acres each, and that will be the equity into these franchises to be capped at a maximum of 10% of the franchise. We are working on the numbers, and we are sharing all the numbers. We've talked to a few partners and said there's nothing we're hiding. We're asking for this amount of money to run. You can have a look at this. You don't have to take up the whole thing. We have other partners who can come and take up, but it's very open. We're going to show you all the numbers, and you will sit with us in those committees. That is now committee level at the board. That's how open we are and transparent. I don't think you get that from any federation in Kenya. We want to change the narrative. Yeah. I was being asked, how do you get rid of your legacy debt? Yeah. Franchise fee. When you put in your money into that franchise, a number of clubs, a number of people put in investors, 25% of that comes to Kenya Rugby, but we have your numbers for you, and we have the players for you. The players come from the clubs in Kenya. And it's like an American system where you get the top players, and then now you choose. So every franchise will have its players from the best players in Kenya. This is how we're going to develop our Simba's team. We get the best playing in a professional league. From that is where Jerome and his team will choose the Kenya team to go to play in South Africa and the Mzansi. Hopefully win it in 2 years, win the qualifier, and get to Rugby World Cup 2027. We also applied for 50 acres a few weeks ago from the ministry. 50 acres at Kasarani. They have a 1,000-acre master plan. We have officially applied for 50 acres to build a stadium, sports injury recovery facility, and athletes' hostels. That will be a high-performance center. Straight away, we'll improve our balance sheet. Right now, it's it's not too good, but that's the plan. So government is quite, we're open with us, and we are talking, and we talk every day. And this was part of their manifesto. But we are saying we're going to bring in private funding to come in and build these stadiums. And how? So we're going to create an SPV together with the corporates. Kenya Rugby Union contribution will be the land. And companies like Bamburi, EABL, you're all invited to come in and put in some equity there and be part owners of that facility. So not just purely rugby, but even football or any entertainment that goes there. We own the facility for however many years it is, 15. So we're getting continuous revenue. And you also get the full value of whatever sponsorship is there. So visibility and all that, but constant revenue coming in a world-class facility. If you look at, I went to Madagascar last month, and that's a very poor country, but they have one stadium over there that beats every stadium we have in this country. So we have to be ambitious. Government won't do everything for us. what we're asking for, and I'm sure we'll get the land. And this is how we're going to build this. I'm a quantity surveyor by profession. I've worked on some of the largest projects in this region. So you break down a building or a development in different parts. And the whole cost of the development, each party takes a part, and you get part of the revenue. So in a small, I mean, that's basically quite a quick snapshot of the plans that we have. And we're willing and waiting to work with you. And we're looking at, walking this journey together. And now I would like to call upon the president of Africa Rugby, Mr. Herbert Mensah, to give a few words. Our special guest has honored us, and he's a man of vision, a businessman, very ambitious for rugby in Africa, and we're just but a small cog of that. So Herbert.
Thank you, Sasha. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Sasha for inviting me. It is an honor to be here. It's an honor because I'm amongst rugby people. I'm here witnessing history. I'm here with my seniors. Rugby has taught me humility, and it doesn't matter how big you are. So today, I'm meeting a lot of great people. I've learned about your structures, the patrons. I'm yet to meet the famous Dickie, who I will search from one part of the globe to another to meet. Members of your board and of your exco as well. I'm particularly happy to meet Richard. For those who know Rugby Africa very well, they will understand why I say that. And I'm here standing here for Richard. So those who will understand, they will understand. It is particularly awesome for me because I also share a certain mantra. Sport is big business, which is part of the basis of my coming in the first place. And I've been at great lengths to shout very loudly from within Rugby Africa back up to World Rugby that we need a mindset change. We really do need a mindset change. We tend in Africa to follow, and by the time you reach your destination, the game has moved on. I believe that we have the greatest athletes in the world. I really do. Across the field, whether it's NBA, whether it is French rugby, whether it is football, you name it. The athletes come from Africa. But the world has moved on. I am particularly impressed with the presentations, and I hope I will get a copy. I don't plagiarize. I'm somebody who becomes your chief marketing officer. I have a background that comes from sports. I was in the horrible world of football once upon a time and run one of the biggest clubs in Africa, Kumasi Asante Kotoko. And we transformed it from a point where it was one of the greatest, it dipped to where our home matches got between 45 and 70,000 people to watch domestic matches, not international, domestic. It took the forefront ahead of English Premier League. And you're absolutely right. It was about entertaining the people, understanding that people have a choice. And I used to write a daily column in our own newspaper, which was the highest selling paper in Ghana, which we started. And I say capital has a choice. It always does. If you make the mistake of believing in your own hype, you die. And what I do like about being here is that, and I do appeal to those who are the sponsors and the people who are going to contribute, is that I'm here because I have belief in Kenya rugby. I do have belief in the history. For those of you who saw me standing with Richard, and with His Excellency the Ambassador, when I meet Humphrey and I meet the others, I feel humbled. And I understand amongst the talent that is sitting here today that something that comes across to me that is critical to me is that you've got to win off the field in order to win on the field. There are two double-edged agendas. You're no longer players, they're players. You need to win off the field in order to win on the field. Sports being big business means you need to run it as a business. And if you need to understand as to how to run it as a business, I'm struggling within Rugby Africa, but I will win because apparently I'm the president. Apparently so. Not easy for the French people to understand. I have some liberties since I'm in English-speaking Africa now. The best team in Africa, real Africa, is Kenya. You're the flagship. Rugby Africa needs you. And therefore, I am your chief marketing officer. I'm so happy that we have Steph here, because Steph understands global world rugby more than anybody else. And he educates me on the way forward. In most places, I'm the biggest person around, but not in Kenya. There's some... Humphrey and his boys are big. But for a 63-year-old at 125 kilos, I'm not too small. Let me put it like that. The point is, I normally enter like a bull in a china shop, and Steph will tell you. So it's about tempering what is going to make it all wrong to making it all right. The world has changed. America is the new horizon for world rugby, and they don't care about us anymore. That is fact. By God's grace, if we're lucky, Mark Alexander will be the next vice president. If we're lucky. And Mark does have an Africa hat on, and he understands. At the last council meeting, we were texting between ourselves saying, he was telling me, we're in trouble because they're no longer looking at us anymore. As president of Rugby Africa, I get about $2.3 million a year for the whole continent. For the whole continent. That's all we get. Where we need probably 10 times that. So we're not in a position to extend where we need to go. I'm in the process of completely reorganizing it. I'm looking at various models, and I say this because some of it will dovetail into where you go. I'm looking at models that are outside of world rugby models, to create new competition structures, to look at private venture capital, to look at different ownerships for the game. Because as Steph lectures and tells me correctly, until Kenya Rugby starts playing 8 to 12 test matches a year, it's never going to work. The under-20 trophy tournament currently going on, I've been in Europe, who are not reporting it, who are not showing it, who are not talking about the results. You can't pick up Sky or anybody and hear anything about it. Luckily, Moses has been keeping me in touch and sending me the links, so I watch the games. And when I watch the games, the most talented teams in terms of the athletes are Kenya and Zimbabwe. But quite clearly, in a game where set play is critical, and the transitions in play have changed from our days. You know, I'm 63, and I'm not going to tell you about the days I played for Saracens and provincial rugby, but it's changed because players used to have a beer at half-time in those days. You know, and there was one referee. The linesmen were linesmen. That's all they were. So whoever got kneed, elbowed, had their nuts grabbed. Apologies, ladies. It was part and parcel of the game of which you'd share your wounds afterwards. The world has changed. We do need to create dramatically, quickly, and I'm hoping by 2024, 2025, to have structures in place that will be completely different. World Rugby are not going to give me $10 million. It's not going to happen. World Rugby are not even going to give us beyond a certain point. But where you have the beauty in the history of the Safari Sevens, where you're bordered by Mauritius, Kampala, the Vic Falls, surely you can create products that the global world would turn around and say, we want to be a part of. So I'm thinking out of the box, and I'm understanding that, yes, your market is outside of Kenya. And I say to the sponsors, I met a wonderful lady, and forgive me because I was determined to have a conversation with Humphrey, who, for me, was far more significant to me than the lady that Humphrey himself was telling me to go and talk to. And I said, look, a black man, I don't understand. But I was trying to explain to this lady of a beverage organization that that you need to attend now. She's married with 3 wonderful children, and they're coming on Sunday to watch. They're coming to watch. That rugby, for me, is still the second largest sport in the world. Kenya, the #1 rugby playing nation in Africa. Sorry, I don't consider Namibia because they're all South Africans. Sorry, did I say that? Now, you wonder why they ever gave me this job, right? I've already started saying the wrong things. I love saying the wrong things in the right language. I ask and I say to the people who are proudly Kenyan that you can help not only Kenyan rugby, but the economy of Kenya by investing in Kenyan rugby. And I'll explain why. Every country you go to in the world tells you they've got the best beer. If I go out, for example, with Moses, and I say to my rugby, we're allowed to say, they say what you say in this beautiful building stays in this building. So the first thing is not a glass of water because you'll rust, okay? So you opt for beer, and you don't look for Heineken or something. You look for the local beer, which is excellent. You look at a product that then says, with sponsorship, that we're no longer looking at Kenya. That product drive has got to be something that says, you're speaking about a competition, but how do I benefit? I'll get the data, but how do I benefit? And I say, if it is I can create tournaments and competitions where the #1 rugby playing nation will now be in markets that benefit yourself. And I'm going to think about things that have never been thought before. I'm going for meetings in London in a week's time to look at a competition that will include Nigeria. Why should South African breweries be dominating 400 million people with more billionaires than the whole of Africa put together? Because Nigeria has more billionaires than the whole of Africa put together. When it is I prefer to go hand in hand with a Kenyan company to see senators and people in Nigeria and say, these are the people who are supporting our youth. It's about Africa. While the Europeans fight over what's happening in Ukraine, they're not thinking about us anymore. While America increases its deficit and wonders whether to release Trump or not, they're not thinking about us. South Americans are investing in themselves and are now excelling in our game and the rest of it. We have to help ourselves. And yes, with 1.3 billion people who don't talk to each other, whose airfares are more expensive than going to Dubai, and yet it is, have the greatest athletes who are basketball players, who are soccer players, who are UFC champions. Surely we can, sponsors, come together and say, we want to give Kenya Rugby $200,000. And I say no, times it by 10. Because if next year we start a Mauritius, and they want to now handle sevens, and pay all hosting rights for the next 4 years. Ivory Coast want to do the same. Morocco want to be readmitted. Countries want to do what we are not doing in Kenya at the moment. We need to win off the field. We need to work together, because Project 2027, and you're absolutely correct, we've got members of Kenyan rugby now involved in Rugby Africa. On the rugby committee is Moses. In charge of women, and on the council is Paola. Because since the days of Richard, Kenya decided to vacate a seat at the high table. I couldn't understand it. You're sort of cutting off your face. You're punching yourself in the head and still saying, I'm great. And you know what happened as a result of that? My predecessor took the Rugby Africa Cup to Marseille in the biggest travesty to Africa in any form. And I say that loud and clear. The biggest disgrace ever. For a continent that is striving, respect, integrity, it should have been here in Kenya. And some of us were not involved in the decision making, but we made it known very, very clearly. And it's a decision that will never happen again in my tenure, however short it might be. If there's anything I can do with sponsors, and for those who are getting to know me, and some do, some don't, but some do, I give my word, I keep my word. It does not matter the consequences. I'm used to getting into trouble. I wasn't quite one of those kids there, but I was a troublesome person. I have no right to be alive today. I have no right to have been a success today. There were many cages waiting for me. I don't know how I dodged those cages. Not because I did illegal things, but because I was impulsive and I speak out of turn. As you get to know me better, you will realize when I meet authority, it's the same. It makes no difference. When I meet presidents and those who are with me on Zoom with the minister, I'm polite but very clear and very firm. I have agenda B, many agendas, but another one is to engage governments. And I have so far in 3 months engaged 8 ministers of state for sport around Africa. We have spoken and I have given them the new way forward for Rugby Africa. I need their investment. They will pay hosting rights. They will understand who we are about. I want the football model where they pay the airline tickets and not Rugby Africa, so that therefore we can invest more back into the athletes themselves who are going to represent Africa. 2.3 million means that nobody in Africa is going to progress. I need the governments. And then with the governments, I need the sponsors. When I met this extraordinarily charming lady yesterday, courtesy, since Humphrey did not want to talk to me, I pointed out that one of the things that I look at in doing, and we've been doing in West Africa, is we don't have the TV rights. We don't have large audiences from television following us. But there are various regulatory issues that we can help sponsors with. I can hold the hands of most sponsors to, not every country, but to many countries in Africa to go and meet state presidents and sit down and say, these are people who are investing in the youth. Because we're talking about the youth, we're talking about rugby, we're talking about the youth. We're talking about a generation who need support, who need hope, and who do understand, Coach Wary, that it's about the getting up. It's not about the falling down. And people that I have taken so far into some countries have benefited in terms of their business, whether it is tax-related issues or reduction in grid electricity pricing because they've got factories that are supporting 10,000 people, whatever it may be. And what we look for in something back is an investment back into sport. The presidents and the governments and the ministers of finance are under huge pressure. Everybody's gone to the IMF. Everybody's country is in some form of economic desperation, if I can put it like that. So it's about relationships. Partnerships, I love relationships. You partner and you build relationships, and people see the integrity of your transparency and share your dream. Yesterday I was invited again by Sasha, and I met that's where I met Humphrey. And I met a lot of great people there. I was humbled to see Kip Keino. Being 63 years old, I grew up in England, where I still remember that run on television, and the name sticks in my mind to this day. You know, and there was a great Kip Keino running, and the English broadcasters mentioning this extraordinary athlete. And therefore, for me and my generation, it was always the Kenyan athlete. I never liked steeplechase, but you guys were winning the steeplechase. I couldn't hang around long enough for 10,000 meters, but you were winning it. But I remember Kip Keino, Paul Tegat, and the rest who came after were legends. But I'm old enough to understand Cassius Clay, Kip Keino, and other great legends of the time. And I was honored by the fact that you remembered your heroes and where it is you wanted to go in 364 days' time. Kenya is a great country. It's not only the wildlife, they're extraordinary athletes. As I mentioned yesterday, I'm a bit annoyed, though, with Kenyan athletes, and I'll repeat it. All of a sudden, you have a sprinter. What's that all about? We're the sprinters and the footballers. We can't play rugby. We don't have much to hold on to. But even what we're good at, we're sort of good. What you're good at, you're extraordinary at. And all I say is that I have an open door policy. I'm not called president. I'm called Herbert. That's who I am. Because who calls Bill Bowman president? Steph, I mean, and this is what we're trying to get away. And if you play rugby, your head's up somebody somewhere. Sorry, ladies. And then when you finish, you say president. I don't quite get it. You know. Africa, we have too much ego and too much big mannerisms. It's just something that happens. Let's have an open door policy. Let's talk. Let's disagree. Let's have heated words, but understand when we finish it that we have to come together for the greater good, because Africa is getting forgotten. And we do have good friends, and I keep looking at Steph because he is one of them. And with my team within Rugby Africa, we are going through a metamorphosis of a change, but they say it's about numbers. So, Richard, we will win. I have the numbers. Those from North Africa lost out, and those who only speak French have also lost out, at least for 4 years. At least for 4 years. So we have 4 years to bring about change, to make Africa great. But I need Kenya back. You know, I know Uganda are on their way, so you guys should be careful. The important point, though, with the plans is, as you run it from a business viewpoint, in being careful, because Steph rightly makes the point that African nations are struggling because the composite of all you have can't be managed with the budgets that you have. So if there's under 20s, if there's men, there's women, there's 7s, there's 15s, unless it is you've got, you know, somebody with tens of millions of dollars, you end up doing so good, as opposed to working extraordinarily. But you're a businessman, and you're successful. So I think if you work that business plan, understanding that you mustn't sink because you want to achieve at every single level, but also understand that you have an immediate challenge, and that is how do you get back up into the HSBC. And I will talk here supporting Kenya totally, and I have said to Sasha and I've said to Moses that Zimbabwe may be a rude awakening for Kenya, so prepare. I'm just saying that. I'm not even thinking about South Africa who've cheated by joining this competition. I mean, what's that all about? But you've got 3 or 4 countries who have really stepped up their game. I mean, I was shocked by the quality of what I saw from Algeria and Nigeria. Those two countries in particular, what they brought to Mauritius, if you're not well prepared, you might be in for a little bit of a shock. Now you're better, we know that. So let's hope that you get yourselves together, get to that tournament. It's in neutral territory in Harare. I know you want to beat Zimbabwe, but I know you're more than capable of beating South Africa if you're mentally right and you're ready for the challenge. And as I said, you've got symbols of success in the past. I've spoken much too long. It always happens you're the last speaker or one of the last speakers, everybody's falling asleep, but hey, you're probably not going to see me here again. So thank you, Sasha. Thank you, all the dignitaries here. I'm humble.
Thank you, Herbert, Mr. President. So that was amazing, and yeah, that's a rugby man speaking, a businessman, a leader, and yeah, and one who sees all the potential in Africa, and that is why he's the president of Africa Rugby. So mine is just to now give a vote of thanks, and I want to first of all thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedule and coming here on a Friday evening. I hope that this has been quite informative. I'd like to thank, first of all, Hemingways and the legendary Dickie Evans and Ross Evans for this amazing facility that we have here, and the hospitality we're enjoying is courtesy of Dickie and Ross. I'd like to thank Herbert for honoring us and coming here to Kenya and attending the World Rugby Under-20 Trophy. We have the finals on Sunday, so you're all welcome. From 10 a.m. and Kenya plays at 2 p.m. Yeah, if you look at the schedule, we're supposed to be at 12, but 2 p.m. to get in the crowds. So bring in everybody. Tickets on sale on our app, and also everything is electronic. So also get quite a number of tickets for your employees. Get them in. Let's fill that stadium. I'd like to thank Paula Lanko, Richard Omwela, and Awori, who was here. He had to leave. He came here for an hour. Dennis Awori, ambassador, he had to fly to Mombasa for an event tomorrow with His Excellency the President. Thank you, Richard. I was your young director. The young director now is Leslie. Yeah, I'd like to thank my board for all the hard work and for working together. We have this vision. I'd like to thank in particular Harriet, who is our commercial services director. She's done a lot of work. Yeah. I'd like to thank Steph Nell, high performance consultant for Africa for World Rugby. We have a few meetings, and he'll put us under the microscope. So thank you in advance. Yeah. I'd like to thank also the Secretariat of the Kenya Rugby Union. Everybody's worked so hard in the background, and including our RDOs. Weru is here. Vinny, thanks for coming and for making this amazing video that shows the story, because there's a lot more stories, and they also need the support as well. Also our very able acting CEO and director of rugby, the most overworked person in Kenya Rugby Union. He needs we even overworked him to make sure he's there at the corner and everything is working. Oh yeah. And we played rugby against each other. Senior to me, but yeah. And I'd like to thank all of you for coming in, our previous partners or potential partners. I know after this we'll all be working together to build this and to change lives, get rugby, Kenya rugby, back to winning ways. Yeah, it's hard, and but it's possible, definitely, with the human resource that we have. And I'd also like to thank Ngarwa for your brilliant presentation. And it's all business focused, you know. We're now seeing the real numbers. We were asked about numbers. They said, yes, Safari Sevens had 48,000 on a weekend in 2013. And that was on a weekend of the Westgate terror attack. And we still had 48,000. It could have hit 60. So the numbers are there. We can bring those people back to the stadium. So let's put our hands together and change lives. And let's enjoy the rest of the weekend and the rest of the evening. There's drinks aplenty. Don't drink too much. There's, yeah. You have to responsible drinking. And that is where we shall also launch it. Responsibility. And do enjoy your weekend. And let us see you all on Sunday at Nyayo National Stadium. And thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much. And most important, our MC. I called him yesterday. I told him, hey.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a great evening and still more to come and lots of interaction outside. Let's give a big thank you to our chairman and all of KRU. Well done to everyone. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
And Mike Craig, last minute, I called him. I was actually there. I said, hey, I need you. What are you doing tomorrow? Yeah, he's a very good MC. Keeps us entertained. A real rugbyman. Thank you very much. Photo session? Where? At the back? Okay.